obviously, we've been going through most of the nations and we have two left. Seeing that both of these nations are definitely going to be as one when Overdress comes in, it only fits that I put both of these nations in one. But as you know, I miss the Zoo Nation. So once I get to the Zoo clans, this is going to hurt a lot, but it has to be said.
サボるんじゃない。
Okay, Aquaforce, in my honest opinion, it wasn't really disappointing, but it could have been better. I'm not even gonna lie on that. Aquaforce, in my honest opinion, could have been better. Like, okay, you have Maelstrom that came out, which didn't really get too much of a boost until towards the end of the V series, which, in my honest opinion, was kind of messed up. Because, I mean, Glory Maelstrom was dumb to go against. Like, the moment you get a front trigger, you most likely lost that match. But the original Maelstrom didn't really have a decent run. And then you also had Davis that was like slightly disappointing, but no, actually no, that was full disappointment. As strong as Davis was towards the end of the G era, you would have expected that Davis finally coming back was actually going to be pretty good, but in reality, he just became like a clone of Gear Chronicle, which is not completely bad though, but it just feels like that if you can't get into Lambros, you just lose, which is, in my honest opinion, dumb. It's kind of dumb. I'm not even gonna lie. It's actually pretty dumb, but it's understandable. But it didn't have its complete losses though. You do have Revron, which was actually very good. It's actually still very good on some cases, and it was very BS because I mean, Revron won against a grade 2 and you're able to minus 5k to your opponent is dumb as hell. As long as with like a triple drive check and you're able to do multiple attacks at once, yeah, that's kind of dumb as shit. But yeah, Revron, in my honest opinion, was like where Aquaforce peaked. I know that's debatable, but in my personal opinion, Revron is where it peaked. Even with the good Maelstrom support that came out in the Bravery set, I still feel like that Revron peaked. I mean, was Aquaforce's peak support. Then there was, in my personal opinion, the biggest missed opportunity that Bushiroad has done to the whole V series. Enter Blue Wings. Blue Wings was kind of sort of like the Die Kaiser in the OG version of Reindeer. You know, once you if you get like a certain thing in a trigger zone, something happens. Well, instead of like breaking shield like how Die Kaiser does, and I kind of forgot what the original Reindeer did once you get a grade 3. I think you like restand something. I don't remember, but because nobody really played it like that. But Blue Wings basically had an ability that activated if you drove check into a heal trigger, and most of the time it did require the unit to stand up. Now keep in mind that this particular ability is also a Vanguard ability on your grade 1 and grade 2s. So during your grade 1 and grade 2 turn, you have the possibility of restanding. That's dumb as hell in my honest opinion. And it was a missed opportunity for two particular reasons. One, there was no substitute. Just like how Die Kaiser had a substitute for a grade 3 with Die Bazooka, where Die Kaiser it breaks shield every time a grade 3 is drove checking, and they have Die Bazooka, which counted as a grade 3 if it was if it hit the trigger zone. So I kind of feel like that Blue Wing needed something like that, where a unit counted as a heal trigger when it hit the trigger zone. Because if they had that, Blue Wings, in my honest opinion, probably would have been one of the most interesting budget decks that you had to do. Not to mention that they didn't necessarily have a grade 3, which is the second problem. So in technicality, you could just like put it in, like, let's say, what will be a prime example? Oh, you could put it with Naval Gazer or something like that. Or if you needed to build like Revron on a budget, that would be like the budget build of it and everything else like that. It had a very good opportunity to become like one of the best budget versions of anything within the game. And Bushiroad just dropped the ball, which is pretty bad in my honest opinion.
サボるんじゃない
Alright, so Grand Blue, in my honest opinion, Grand Blue was weird. So, what the fuck was that? Anyway, so the problem with Grand Blue, in my honest opinion, was I kind of feel like that it was like Darky Regulars when it first came out. The problem with Darky Regulars when it first came out was that it needed a certain amount of cards into the soul, and you weren't able to put that many cards into the soul in a timely manner. Whereas Grand Blue was a similar way, where you needed certain cards in the drop zone, but you weren't able to get said certain cards in the drop zone in a timely manner. So at the end of the day, it was like everything that it needed to do, it couldn't really do in a timely manner, I guess, if that makes any sense. I don't know why I said timely manner twice, but whatever. Anyway, like for a prime example, No Life King needed like what, 12 or 13 cards into the soul, and what was the first VR that freaking Grand Blue had? Hold on. Bazkirk, that's what it was. So Bazkirk, like, what, required you to have 20 cards in a drop zone, but you couldn't get it in a timely manner because you were barely able to get like 10 by the time you get the grade 3. So yeah, that was pretty much like the major issue in my honest opinion. But you can't necessarily fault him at the end of the day. I guess it was just one of those things that Bushiroad wasn't trying to like overpower creep something very early in the game. I mean, when like the whole reboot started, but you already know, like, as we seen, that completely failed. But anyway, I feel like that Grand Blue, in my honest opinion, had like a lot of decent stuff, but at the same time, just like Darky Regulars, it felt like it helped their premium variant a lot more than it helped their standard. It was like, oh yeah, this deck is completely trash in standard, but in premium, ho boy, in premium that shit is busted. Like, that's how it kind of felt, in my honest opinion. But it did kind of peak like around Night Rose. It's just pretty sad that Night Rose only lasted about 2 to 3 weeks because it came out the same month as Set 10. You already know how Luar just completely fucked over the game. So at the end of the day, you know, this was actually pretty decent. I did like the Grand Blue support for the most part, and that Ghosty chick that's coming out and actually come out today actually. Man, that's going to be a bitch to go against in premium too. I'm not even going to lie on that. But that standard variant is actually pretty good too. I just fear that card a lot more in premium than I do in standard. I'm gonna just say that now, even though the standard version is pretty good. Alright, since these motherfuckers want to have their own nation, their own booster set, their own Shroud deck, since they want to be alone in everything with their privileged asses, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to talk about them in this particular review. No. They deserve their own video. Since they want to be on their own, since they want to be fucking privileged, since they want to be on their own and everything. No. I'm not even going to start right now. I'm not going to start. I'm going to save that for that particular video. Fuck those fishy little bitches.
サボるんじゃない
Alright, man. I'm not even gonna lie. Do I really want to do this? No. Okay, I'll be strong. I'll be strong. Okay. Neonectar, in my honest opinion, is that particular anime character in shonen anime. You know how like you have that one character that is very strong in the beginning, but then after they lose once, they decide to use this character as an example of how strong the villain is, like the current villain is. Like, I feel like that's what happened to Neonectar. These Neonectar started so strong. Like, think about this. It was one of the most dominating decks in once the ultra rare set came out. And then you also had the fact that they were making tokens, the first of its kind at the time. It was successful. It basically had early grade 2 rush. It had early game pressure, mid game pressure, late game pressure. It had ways of regaining field after it lost it. Like, if it gets up to a point where you're going against Kagero blows up your field and you don't give a fuck because basically you're just going to re-get that field anyway, that definitely says something. It was a force to be reckoned with. I'm not even going to lie. It went toe-to-toe with OTT. It went toe-to-toe with Angel Feathers. It went toe-to-toe with Gold Paladins as well. It went toe-to-toe with both Great Nature and Murakumo. I mean, it came third place in the 2018 BCS and everything else like that. I mean, bruh, this deck was a force to be reckoned with. It had one of the most sought out promos in the game. It basically lasted all the way into a Bermuda Triangle format. It was very strong. But then it just fell off. And it's like, you're trying to figure out what happened. How did it fall off? Why was the second and third wave of support of Neonectar not really that great? Well, I had to long and hard think about it, and I think I have a couple of reasons as to why it fell off. Okay, so first, if you look at the date of the Ultra Rare set coming out and the Mysterious Fortune set coming out, that's a whole year gap. Ultra Rare came out in December and the Mysterious Fortune came out in December. You know how much of the game has changed between those two particular sets? Like I said, we had Bermuda format, we had the whole Hyuga format. We also had the little thing with Kagero and Link Joker and all that other stuff. I mean, there was a lot of things that, you know, you had to put into consideration when putting into this thing. Like, there was a lot to change, and there was no way, no matter how dominant it was when it first came out, it was going to keep up with everything, especially since we had an XL format towards the end of that year too. I mean, you can't really do nothing about it. So they finally get their support, and it's Arboro Dragon. And Arboro Dragon is pretty good. It can make 10k tokens that can not only boost but also intercepts. I mean, that was actually pretty dumb on its own. It had like some cards that gave it like built-in criticals. It was, in my honest opinion, I think it was the only deck in the game that didn't have to waste a single counterblast in order to use it. Like, the only time you would ever waste a counterblast is to use the grade 2 chick. I can't think of her name at the moment, but she's the one where you like retire, like, I think you retire 1 or 2 tokens, and depending on, oh no, you retire 1 or 2 tokens, you can either give her like a built-in critical or she gets like 20k plus. And then you also had the fact that Force 2 was amazing as well. And then you had on top of that, like, Cecilia, that was actually going well with, like, Arbor of Dragon. I mean, you couldn't really go wrong with all this. There was so much things going for Arboros. But what happened? Well, like I said, this came out around the time Hyuga format was a thing, and XL meta was a thing, and it was this like everything that was in the meta had an answer to Arboros. Um, let's see, Pale Moon had enough hand power. Tachikaze could just kill them off if they get the grade 3 first. You had Hyuga that had an answer to most of it using Shiryuki. And then on top of that, you had, what was it, Narukami that can just instantly kill you before you get the grade 3 as well. There was a lot of factors to put into it. So it couldn't necessarily be as best as it could have been. But then you had the third wave, which was Asha, which is like Return of the Chocolate Queen. She finally came back. She had an interesting thing to do where it was all about making her own tokens, and they all get base critical. They get as much criticals as the Vanguard gets. So you had the Vanguard and the Asha tokens hitting for like 4 damage minimum, like very easily. And it was like there was so much you can do with it, but then at the end of the day, there was one major issue. And I feel like that this was a major issue that Neo Nectars had to deal with throughout the whole V series. They only did 3 attacks. It's all like, I don't care how many criticals, how big the damage is that Asha was given, how many double criticals you run into or anything else like that. The problem with Asha was that she didn't make multiple attacks. It's all like, if you're going against protect decks, you were just going to get cut by, constant PGs and everything else like that. There was not enough guard restrict to go around, so you couldn't necessarily do anything with that as well. Most of the decks around the time were pretty fast, so they came out a lot faster than you were able to do anything. With Asha in general, you had the fact that if you had that one particular grade 3 turn, and if you didn't kill them within that grade 3 turn, you basically just lost, because you had to sink all of your savings all into that one particular attack. And like I said, she only does 3, so you can't necessarily do anything else with that. There might be a couple of more factors that I'm not putting into it or I'm not thinking about at the moment, but that's just my hypothesis, like in my honest opinion, why I think it kind of messed up. And I felt like Neo Nectars has gotten up to a point where it was like, yo, you can't necessarily do anything in either format because, of the lack of attacks, especially once Katrina gone. I felt like Katrina, in my honest opinion, was like the one thing that was like keeping Neo Nectars as dangerous as it was. But that's just me. And like I said, most of that was probably because of like the multiple attacks and everything else like that. But let me know what you think in the comments, or if I have something wrong, or there's something I'm completely missing, or anything else like that. But that's just how I felt.
サボるんじゃない
Great Natures, my god, it was the same thing too. It was very strong in the beginning, and it just completely fell off. Like, think about this for a second. Great Nature had a very interesting mechanic. It was all about doing Great Nature was all about doing the self-mill thing, where you mill the top card of your deck, and depending on what it is, you get an effect. You get the better effect if it was a trigger effect. You get a decent effect if it was a normal unit. And it was like, you had Leopold that was able to fill up a field with no issue. You had Hamsuke that was able to make 2 XL markers despite trying to get the ride chain to be very interesting. It became first place and beat Murakumo at his own game. Like, think about this. Murakumo and OTT were the 2 decks that was guaranteed to probably win that, BCS 2018, and it just ended up losing. Both of them just ended up losing to Great Nature. Now, despite it barely came out, it's just the fact that it was able to stand up to him was actually good enough, in my honest opinion. But then it's like, even using the support in like premium was actually pretty good too. And it's like, it was so strong, but then the Mysterious Fortune came out. It had something decent, which was Isabel, aka waifu, aka like second best waifu. But that's besides the point. Point is, oh my god. Point is, the thing that I like about Great Nature was how they improved on the mechanic, how they came out with, well, I'm honest opinion, we'll call it Dog Fox, even though like I kind of wish he was used more. You had the whole Ezuka pack, so they had their own SP pack. Man, that was actually pretty spicy. I'm not even gonna lie. They had like their own Ezuka, they had the whole Ezuka rare and all that other stuff. She was able to use both of, have any of the units use both of their abilities, both of their both of their self mill abilities, like both normal and trigger units, so you were able to get like 2 for 1. Even though you had to wait till your opponent was at grade 3 in order to use both of them, it was still pretty good. And then you had the Bravery set where it was like, yo, you had 2 SP packs, 2 SPs. We had 2 VRs, man, 2 VRs. I would have never expected. Like, I would have never expected them to get 2 VRs. Like, think about this. Like, you had any of the clans that got 2 VRs, they were always the most popular ones. You had Kagero that got 2 VRs twice, Shadow Paladins that got 2 VRs twice. You had Pale Moon that got 2 VRs. You had Genesis that got 2 VRs. And it's like, you would have never expected that if there was any clan to get 2 VRs, it would have been Great Nature. But man, Great Nature got 2 VRs, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be spicy. I'm going completely into this fucking set. It's like, I kinda did, I kinda didn't, but at the end of the day, man, 2 VRs, amazing. But they all ended up becoming disappointments at the end. Not complete disappointments, but how do I explain this? So, when the Mysterious Fortune set came out, you already know, like I said, Hyuga format, XL meta, but Great Nature is an XL deck too, so why didn't it do nothing? Well, it turns out that Isabel required a lot of counterblast. A lot of counterblast. And that in its own was an issue. And I don't know, man. It was an issue. It didn't really generate like enough. I guess you can also say that Isabel being at grade for waiting for your opponent to be at grade 3 became an issue because they went against Tachikaze and they got the Anger Blader first before you got to grade 3. You were kind of screwed. And then at the same time, there was not really any recovery either. I feel like that if there's one thing that Great Nature always needed was recovery. And yes, I understand. Yo, what's the point of having recovery if you're just going to, if the whole point is to kill your opponent off? Which I agree to some extent, but you also got to remember that that's basically their Achilles heels at the end of the day. they don't have no way to recover. They can deck out at any given time because they're either trying to get too much hand advantage or they're trying to self mill way too much. And it's like, I don't expect them to do like any like trigger recovery or anything else like that. I don't expect them to do that at all. But at the end of the day, I expect them to, what would be like the best way to like put it? I would expect them to have a way to fight an endurance match because you're going to run into that deck that can defend everything that they go against. You're going to run into that particular deck that's going to hold them from going as aggro as they want to. You're going to run into that particular deck that's going to have an answer to everything that they do. And once that happens, that's when the deck fails. That's when the deck actually, that's when everything falls apart, in my honest opinion. And I know that's basically like almost every clan or anything else like that, though, but I'm be real with you, that it hurts. I'm not even gonna lie about that. So at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like that a lot of factors came into it, and overall, it just wasn't really in their favor. Now, when it comes to the bravery set, you still have the fact that Luard was a thing. You have the fact that Isabel still didn't really have a way to countercharge at the end of the day. So it would, the whole counterblast issue was still a big, it was still a big obstacle for them. And it's, I'm not going to say it's near impossible not to build it without the promo, but the promo makes the deck flow so much better at the end of the day. Like, when you really think about it, that promo really does make the deck a lot better. But it's, in my personal opinion, it's too late now, because guess what? Big Belly has a way to countercharge. Hamsuke has a way to countercharge. By the time we get this promo, like, V Premium is going to, like, V, Standard is, I'm not going to say it's going to be completely dead, but you're going to be at a point where it's like, we're just going to default to Hamsuke. We're not really going to worry about Isabel like that. And even if you do, a lot of the other clans just ended up getting a lot of good shit off of this clan selection alone. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for Isabel to, battle against everything, especially seeing that, she kind of sort of peaked when that set came out. And then you have Big Belly, where Big Belly had a lot of interesting things going for it. It had a good hand advantage. It used the original style of Great Nature. It actually had like a majority of its own stuff, so you weren't completely screwed over by the fact that the last two support cards didn't really, support waves didn't really have abilities similar to it. But the problem with all that too is that it's too linear. There's no way of like making, there's no way for, the deck to do a lot more stuff than it should. And at the end of the day, it's like, how do I make this work? It's kind of hard to make the deck work at the end of the day. And it's not the fact that the deck is bad either. It's actually pretty good, but it feels like that you're depending way too much, and it kind of feels piece reliant, because you're trying to get, Hamadon, and you're trying to get more grade 3s in hand, and you're still trying to get Big Belly in hand, and you're still trying to get some of the other cards that can just combo off with Big Belly and everything else like that. And it's like, it's there, but at the end of the day, at the same time, it's not. And that's the sad part about it. But overall, man, I like the Great Ancient support though, but it just feels like all of it came out at the wrong time, and they have obvious issues that Bushiroad never really fixed.
サボるんじゃない
The one that Bushiroad likes to fuck over. Fuck over a lot. I swear, sometimes this game makes me want to drink. But I have to do this. I have to be strong for my Mega Colony brethren. Okay. So, I don't know if anybody's been watching some of my other videos, but I've been doing these videos throughout February where I go over each part of the Mega Colony clan and then come out with a deck list right after. But I've been basically doing this thing where like, yo, I did machining, I did gunning Colio with the mill mechanic, I did Gridora in the cradle marker mechanic. Tomorrow I'm putting up the Venom Stinger video. And it's like, as I'm doing all these, I've already came to this realization, but the sad part about all this is Bushiroad doesn't know, they don't know the focus to this particular clan. They don't necessarily have like a decent focus of what they're actually doing. And I really hate this. I really hate that there was some obvious, very obvious ways of fixing up the clan, and Bushiroad just said, nah, no, we're not gonna do this. We just going to, give you something new. And I'm sitting here like, we don't necessarily need something new. Just fix the old shit. Just fix the older stuff. Just give the older stuff something to work with. Instead of just, oh, we're gonna make a new thing. We don't need something fucking new. We don't need something new whatsoever. I don't understand why Bushiroad just all like, oh, let's just scrap it and start all over. You didn't need to scrap it and start all over. Yes, I understand that you wanted to give like some diversity to some clans, but at least fucking finish the job at least. At least finish the job. Why? It's like, I don't understand how is that hard. You basically fixed everything else in the fucking game. You fixed a lot of clans that really didn't have a chance in the G era or the OG era. You fixed a lot of clans that definitely needed some help. You basically pushed a lot of other clans that definitely needed some spotlight because they never had spotlight in their whole lifespan. But for some fucking reason, you keep fucking this clan over. And I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't know what Bushiroad has against Mega Colony, but that shit needs to fucking stop. Come out with Clan Selection Volume 1. You fix a lot of stuff for a lot of other clans. The same thing with Clan Selection. And I feel like that you dropped the ball on maybe a few of them, and you give us this very good unit, Venom Stinger. Venom Stinger is very good. The effect is amazing. The effect works. But you know what the problem is? Where do I fucking put him? Where do I put him at? There's nowhere for me to put Venom Stinger at in any given thing, in any given version of Mega Colony whatsoever. I don't understand why would you give them a unit so good but no pieces. We're trying to figure out the pieces of where to fucking put this fucking unit. It's all like you had everything right there. You keep dropping the ball for no apparent reason. And I don't understand that. You could have just simply gave us something for the cradle marker mechanic, or gave us something simply for the mill mechanic, or at least give us some more fucking machinings. You don't even know what you're doing with fucking machinings. I'm done. I ranted long enough. I'm just gonna take my frustration out on Bermuda Triangle. I'm sorry, but I'm out.